everyone, welcome to another session of A Day in the Life of a BA. My name's James and I'm the President of IIBA Ireland and I'll be your host today. At IIBA Ireland, our mission is to support professionals by sharing knowledge, common terminology and practical insights into the work that us business analysts do across different domains or industries. And that's the whole point of this series, to give you a chance to hear directly from BA professionals about their typical day, like their processes, their tools and techniques they use, the challenges and successes that they've encountered in their industry, or even learning the core domain knowledge. And each month, we're inviting a BA professional to share their personal journey, highlighting the approaches they take, the technologies they rely on, and even real-world examples from their own work. So whether you're considering a career in business analysis, already working alongside another BA, or simply looking to deepen your understanding of the role, today's session is designed to give you that clarity, confidence, and a shared language for working effectively with other business analysts. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by Rakesh, who works as a BA in real estate. Rakesh will be walking us through his own day in the life and sharing practical insights throughout. Throughout the session, please feel free to turn on your camera if you like, and you're more than welcome to interact with people. We'll keep a slot at the end for questions, so if you want to put them into the chat or the Q&A tab, Rakesh can answer your questions then at the end. So without further ado, let's hand it over to Rakesh.
Thank you, James. And hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. And my name is Rakesh, and I'm here for tell you about the life of a BA and how the day goes around. So good morning, everyone. And thank you to the IIBA for this opportunity. And I thank you all for being here today. So let me begin by saying, when someone asks, what does a business analyst really do? So the most honest answer, it depends. It depends. So people ask, on what does it actually depend? So we say it depends on the industry, it depends on the clients, it depends on the system, the geography, and the maturity of the organization. So today, I'm not here to talk about the theory or certificate definitions or anything beyond that, but I want to talk about reality, like real projects, real ERP implementations, real pressure, real data issues, and very real deadlines. So what you see on this slide, there will be projects, there will be client managed and continents and ERP modules. But let me be very honest, there behind every number, there is a go live weekend, a data crisis, and at least a night without a sleep. So this session is about one day working in the life of a business analyst that is zoomed across years of experience and across different geographies. So now let me tell you all about myself. Let me take you to the next slide. So let me briefly share my background. So you know where this perspective is coming from, right? So I kind of started my journey working with large real estate and infrastructure organizations, including the Embassy Group, where I still remember my phase working with the chief technology officer, and I just started there as an MBA intern. And these environments were very complex, multiple projects ongoing, and you as an intern have been put up into multiple projects across different teams, scaling around, and you don't know what to do. You don't know what is a business analyst. You don't know what is a product manager. You don't know what is a product. You have just entered the organization, right? And then I moved on to work with the Fidelity National Financial, where the focus shifted to financial accuracy, audit readiness, and very high expectations around data quality. Then I recently went with the StrategicERP, where my role went beyond documentation. I started, handling multiple ERP implementations in parallel, often with aggressive timelines where you started working in your geography with the India clients, and then as the day came to an end, you moved towards the African clients, and then with the Middle East clients, you're struggling between to manage all their expectation and thinking about providing those solutions in line with the requirements. That's what we generally try to do, right? So, having said about my introduction, at some point in my career, my mindset shifted. I stopped thinking like of myself as someone who writes requirements, and I started acting as someone who owns outcomes. So I would say that shift changed everything, and that changes everything, maybe. So let me tell you about the company or about what is strategic ERP, where in a real estate domain, how do trying to get engaged and to understand the business analyst role here, you need to understand the platform, right? So basically, this strategic ERP is a domain specific ERP. As you can see, we have the operations, business development, sales and marketing, project management, accounts and finance, and then we have the HR functions, many functions which I have not listed here. So I want to state to you all of you guys, this means that everything is deeply connected. As the name suggests, that ERP, that's an enterprise resource planning software, right? So a change in sales will impact finance, and a change in project progress will impact the billing. HR data will impact the site productivity and cost, and there will be chaos. So, for a BA, this is both powerful and dangerous. Can someone comment in the chat how it is both powerful and dangerous? Why do you think so? Having in this kind of industry? Okay. All right. So I know it's not easy to answer that why being a BA in such a domain is both powerful and dangerous. So one incorrect configuration, one misunderstood requirement that will show up later as a financial or compliance issue, right? So this is where the business analyst value will truly showcase, and not in the screens, but in the process thinking, in the data flow, I would say, and in understanding the business logic end to end. So now let me take you to the next slide where we will talk about how this ERP uh, gets implemented in the real world. Okay. So as you can see that every client follows this journey, and the BA is the orchestrator behind each of this phase. So this slide captures the heart of the ERP work, which the company as a vendor to its clients, they have to provide to different clients on the type of requirements. So every ERP project starts with excitement, and at kickoff, everything sounds simple. Scope of work, documentation, then sample reports, imports, and templates. Everything sounds so simple. But the business analyst's job here is to convert ambition into clarity, scope, boundaries, and expectations. Those should be clear with our stakeholders. So, as we move forward, we start during the setup and configuration. That is when the system starts taking shape. Decisions are made here. And I'll be very honest, these decisions will haunt or help the project later, either of them. So when we say there is a setup, there's a data preparation and format sign off. So these are just little keywords, but they are not so simple as they look and sound. So when we come on the phase of data preparation, this is where reality truly hits you. We have old data, we have inconsistent formats, and then we have manual adjustments. Many projects fail silently here. You don't even know what's going in the background, and then you come up with a email or you come up with a message that okay, the project has failed, but it's not moving. You ponder upon later why it happened, why it did not happen, right? Okay. Now there are different formats that are available with different clients that you have generally hard to get the data integration, hard to get the sign off, but the daily invoices, daily agreements, whether it is salary slips, these are kind of emotionally sensitive documents, I would say. So here the integration are where the theory ends and the practicality applies. Yeah. And then we come out about the training of the people who would be using these enterprise resource planning softwares, right? And this training is not about only the screens, how they're moving, but it is about the confidence, right? And with the confidence, you create those, we used to call them the champions, or the heroes of the application, who would be the advocates of those application in their own organizations. Then comes the go live. So at go live, pressure is at its peak, I would say. The BA's role is not just a technical heroics, it's calm, clarity, and control. We have all three C's: the C for calm, C for clarity, and C for control. But there is a C for chaos, which should be missing, which should be excluded. There should not be chaos. Okay. And then I would say a project is truly successful only when the client says, we trust the system. So let me give you a quick example of past year where I had the opportunity of joining this organization, and I had to travel all the way to a different part of the country. And at the just having a training of 3 days at my organization, and then I was told that you need to go to the client site and deal there. So I did not know what to do. And as I entered the organization, I met with the different teams: the product team, the development team, the testing team, and the implementation team. They were in a lot of chaos, a lot of, kind of complaints, or, errors in some of the parts of application, and leading to different escalations within the organization. Everyone was in a chaos, so I was not sure whether I would be able to handle that chaos. Hope many of you would be relating to that one, right? So having said that, I went to the client side. I then people senior than me, like 30 40 years senior than me, people came to me and they are telling that, okay, why have you come, what will you do here? We have so much of trouble here, we have so much of problem, how we are going to solve that? So I said that Rome was not built in a day, and these problems I know have been emerging gradually throughout time, because maybe there was not much attention paid to the core areas, or maybe the root cause analyses were not performed or not done in that manner. So we will try to structure that out, seeing the practical situation of the organization, and then we will proceed to the steps. So that's how we, kind of try to move ahead, having those daily calls, with the development product, asked out the developers what is the root cause, check the technical feasibility of the coming in requirements, and then, trying to have that different discussions around the tech and the different architects, trying to understand how scalable that architecture is being built for the implementation of a particular module of a particular client. So having said that, we said like, okay, we trust the system, and then the system will take the way forward. Okay. Now let us move to understand, apart from this organization, how will you have the different clients and different geographies that you will be involved, and you do not know those are on the plate for you, and those will be coming out as you have started one journey and there are multiple clients. So let me move to the next slide. Okay. So here we will be talking about like how there are different geographies and how the business analyst role changes drastically based on the geography. So in India, I would say compliance and approvals dominate. In industries where there is a hell lot of construction work, hell lot of infrastructure, sorry, a lot of infrastructure going on, all those buildings, scaling, goods shipping in, goods moving out, raw materials, and the constructed materials, the EPC contractors, and different ones. So as you can see, that Indian public listed company, there are SAP migrations. So yeah, there comes the picture when any big giant is in front of you, sitting with their software, and they want to scale up to something different that can cater to their different needs. Like SAP would handle only their financial operations or their any other operations, but they want the HR domain and other domains to be linked up and have the reports generated simultaneously, so that the organization can take good business decisions, right? So, and in Dubai, the speed, the reporting quality, and the compliance matter deeply. So there are a lot of property purchases and sales going on within the different sections of the company's periphery. In that, they try to have a robust software which gives them the accuracy of what their and where their current businesses are lying down, right? So here the business analyst again comes into the picture. They become a guide, and sometimes they act like a teacher. So you are having the same ERP, you are having the same business analyst skills, but it is a completely different human context, right? And handling again 30 to 40 clients, with a small team, teaches you one lesson very quickly. You need system, not heroics. So you need that different structures and departments built around you, so that you can have the maximum optimization value of those teams, and bring them to pivot them together, and then traverse them across to lead and bring success to your organization and the client organizations. Okay. Now, as we understand that there are different kinds of implementation phases. So in those implementation phases, you don't have to be on a similar, you don't have to wear a similar hat. Your hats keep changing around. Sometimes you have to play the role of a detective when you're in a planning phase, and sometimes you have to be conversative, sometimes you have to be diplomatic, sometimes you have to be stakeholder oriented on the time of go live. So that's how you wear different hats, play different roles, and then try to proceed and make the entire thing a success, right? Okay, now let us move to how this day around these different geographies would actually look like. So here we have the client checkings, the requirements and configuration, data validation, stakeholder management, AI in tech initiatives, cross-border delivery. All these things are like, from the morning stand-ups to midnight data validations, a real rhythm of how the ERP business analyst would work, right? Okay. Uh, yeah. So this is the slide everyone waits for, like what actually the day would look like. So morning begins with calls, sometimes across time zones. Midday is heavy on clarifications, process mapping, configuration alignment. A big part of the day goes into data validation. There are trial balances, there are master data, there are reconciliations, there are some, factual errors in the reports that needs to be rectified on the by the development team, and they are still occupied under different tasks. How do we manage that? Then we have the stakeholder management that never stops. There are the CFOs, there are the site heads, there are the IT teams. Each of them would speak a different language. And increasingly, there is a time spent identifying where automation or AI can reduce your manual efforts. So I would say my calendar decides my time zone more than my passport. Okay, right. So I wonder how many of you would be in such a situation where you are still trying to struggle or figure out how the day is going. So here we are, how the day is going. Okay. Um, I wonder if anyone has any questions at the moment, or yeah. So let me move to the next slide. Okay. So here we have the skills and lessons, I would say, over the years, which I have learned something very important. So, uh, no tool has ever saved a project. I know we all try to learn different tools. There are, for documentation management, for stakeholder management, for backlog management, and different other kinds of tools which we require throughout the SDLC processes, right? So no tool has saved a project, but the skills did. Whatever skills we are having, they really save a project, and then they turn them into success, right? Okay. So I would say process thinking that prevents rework. Then there is an empathy which will prevent the escalation. Then there is a data rigor which prevents disasters. One bad master record, and the whole go live will be reinitiated, and you have to rework, because somewhere where you have not mapped the process earlier, you would come in a place, land in a situation, like you would see that, okay, uh, you help developed your client a report which contained 50 row items of any particular financial statement, and suddenly that 50 became 51, but your system wasn't equipped to handle those 51 items, right? So on the basis of that, at the time of requirement gathering, it was ignored, where we capture a non-functional requirement on how the scalable requirement would be measured. So that was noted down. That was not noted down at the time of requirement gathering, or that was not discussed either between the stakeholders. And then it led to a confusion later on, and it became a bug, became an error, and then we are trying to solve it at the end of the month, where the client is having reconciliations. The chartered accountants are swarming up and then letting you know, oh, your system doesn't work. So what is going on? We need another system. We need to scrap that and this. So it is again a chaotic situation. It has moved far beyond the chaos, and it has shifted to the chaotic situation, right? So here we have to become the translator. So the BA will be a translator, and between business, technology, and uncertainty. Okay. Uh, I hope. Sure, Emmanuel. If I read that name correct, Emmanuel issue. Yeah. Okay. So in ERP projects, 80% of success happens before the go live. You cannot sit on the day of the go live and tell that, okay, we have reached to this till the date, and now we are counting on the 100% success, right? So before that, during the alignment, during data preparation, during expectation management, that is where we try to define the parameters of how uh, success will be defined, where the real value has shifted to organizations, and and the client is in a position to tell you, okay, yes, my processes have really transformed, with the help of your technology, and now we are scaling into different heights because of your technology and the environment in which we are working. So having said all these things along, we should talk about how the artificial intelligence comes into the picture, and its adoption is not just about selling AI, but it's about showing a cautious organization one small, undeniable win. So, how that small, undeniable will create a confidence on the organization of you working as a business analyst, and then how that thing can lead to more requirements coming in. So more requirements coming in, that is more profits, more revenue for your company, and plus the added value what you're doing. So that's a win-win situation. If you would have seen those quadrants of how organizations or people are placed, where there's a win lose 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 and then win-win situations arise, right? Okay, so as I was having a engineering plus an MBA background, so that worked for me. So I could understand how to read a DPR and the profit and loss report in the same morning. I did not have to reach out to stakeholders to understand what would a balance sheet look like, what an asset and liability table structure look like. So that knack I got it in my during my MBA, and the other parts of the technology, how the tech teams are working, how the software is moving, what could be the errors, what are the plausible errors that could be found, that I studied during my engineering, I would say. So yeah, the background, your educational background will really help you some in some parts, but if you solely rely saying that, okay, my educational background is this and I can lead in this role, then you are not totally correct, because it can save you at some places, but not always. Okay, so let me move towards the next slide. So, yeah, now we try to understand how the business analysts, sorry, how these business analysts are in the age of this artificial intelligence. So, when I say that, let's talk about the challenges what I listed down here. So there are manual paper based process still common in the public serving units and in the African markets, and you created an application, you try to pitch in an application, your sales team comes to the picture, pitches in an application that, okay, we will have the attendance of all the workers involved in the site where the work is going on, and the client says the workers doesn't have a smartphone yet, they have a keypad phone. How will you integrate that into your technology? You're not sure, but you have come up to the client and with the idea of giving them a software. Okay, there is a biometric logging, there is a iris scanner, or any other new age technologies. So at that point of intersection where the technology has reached out to a very high level, but the users of the technology are still gradually moving towards that point where they could actually use those technology initiatives. So then you come up with something in a mind. Okay, maybe they can send a text message to a number using their keypad phone, and then probably that could work in our technology. That could be captured somewhere as a data in a software to make those data handling, and eventually uh, uh, give it to the mm, data visualization part, have to help the team take decisive actions on how it is going on. Okay, okay. Thank you, Ms. Anur. Okay. So I was talking about one of the challenges in the African markets, and it could be probably in different markets as well. So yeah. So then there are a low digital maturity, and fear of automating things, and data exposure, whether my client data or my confidential data would be on a restriction, or would be on I would say, a kind of security risk. So we run that change management workshop, as I have mentioned, alongside with the technical training, so that the users of the software are in a confidence position that while my champion users, what we used to call them, they are engaging with the platform, they are not at a risk. Their data is getting stored somewhere, and they have their contact science of their data confidentiality, and how we have done the data classification exercise of the data, segregating the data into very high risk, medium risk, low risk, and different terminologies other organizations use for that. And after saying that, so our role in here, we talk about disconnected systems, accounted in Tally, or having your Excel sheets, and having your projects on emails, that okay, a certain work are going around, and we have email distribution groups created, and on the basis of that, then we start to map out the journey, that okay, the client is having these three things. For example, if I say Tally and Excel, so how do we concatenate the data of these two software applications being used, and what is the purpose, or what is the need of the client at that hour when they were using it, and how do they want to scale up their operations using our technology. So when I say using our technology, I mean using the vendor's technology, and as a business analyst, how would I make this process easier and effective and efficient? So that should be the ultimate goal of a person in that sphere, I would say. Then we have reporting delays, as I've mentioned there, which means leadership decisions are always behind the curve. So uh, people try to having come up on a stage of leadership, or many years of experience, they understand that okay, we see the picture somewhere on practicality, but unless those practical data comes up in numbers, we do not have the exact figure on what is happening around, why it is happening. Okay, we start trying to understand the trends. We study different graphs on different scales. We try to understand, okay, this is the majority of the region that needs to be having some sort of capex investment going on around in this part, and then we need to lower down the number of people working in one particular team, and then we try to balance out the situation arising of both those platforms. And that's how the leadership works, when you actually help them move along that road. That's what the business analyst should be doing in such places. Okay, so we need to understand this, that based on the artificial intelligence, how they should reduce the dependency on the individuals, and they should increase the intelligence of the system. So in the future, business analysts who understand process, data, and technology, they will not be replaced because they are having the knack of the client empathy and both the connect of technology and the people pivoted around their own business analysis thinking, what they have gained through their expertise, through many years of experience. And even for the freshers who are thinking of moving into this industry, would feel safe in this organization or in this era of artificial intelligence because they have to have that grasp on the process, on the data and the tech, moving around to provide real value to the clients, to the organization you're working, and to the stakeholders you're working while you're writing the requirements, while you're writing the BRDs, the SRS, the FRDs, whatever you would say. How well you define the acceptance criteria, how well you define the user stories, I would say the eligibility and the exclusions, how you put up in a acceptance criteria, and also the impacted systems, many things. I know in today's age you will get all of things on the internet, but while defining, we should always cater on the fact that which of the components are of the utmost importance and which of the components are a kind of limited importance, but they should be presented along with all the artifacts. So, yeah, we try to understand what are the challenges and how the business analyst's response should be there. Then let us move. Just we are coming to the end of the slide. Okay. So, yeah, I now want to close this with a thought that, okay, that a good business analyst will deliver requirement. A great business analyst builds systems that continue to work even when people change. So just before that, giving you that thought, let me share an example of my early stage careers where I started working on a project. There was this integration going on, as I remember now, and there were around 50 stakeholders in a meeting, both from the vendor and the client side. And as I initially told you guys, I was working under the chief technology officer of the company. He handed over to me that meeting and he just left out of the meeting randomly and told that, okay, Rakesh, you need to take care of this. And, at the end of the day, I'll be asking you what are the things, what are the bottlenecks of this meeting? What do you think went wrong? And I want you to also assign tasks to people who are 10, 15, or maybe 20 years senior than me, and I don't know what to do, how to communicate to them, how to start those conversations. And just the meeting started in a knack of 2 to 3 minutes. The chief technology officer left out of the meeting and just told me that I should take care. So it was a kind of nervous situation for me in that place. But having said that, I tried to mitigate that problem by just having a simple thought in mind, keeping my originality. That you can see different people, you can learn from different people, but the important thing is that you should be original. You should be confident of what you are as a person, what you know, what you have been learning, and what you try to implement, or what you try to provide value at the point where you are engaged with different stakeholders. So nothing strange I did. I just followed. I learned from people. I learned in my MBA that whenever there is a chaos, you try to bring in a structural way, and then you try to move out. So having said that, in that meeting, I just had an Excel created with the pointers, that okay, whatever the other person is saying, I would just note it down and then try to move it forward. So yeah, and then I took that meeting ahead confidently, and it took me around 45-50 minutes in that meeting to have all those stakeholders pinching their doubts and then creating those chaos into clarity at the end of the day. I used a tool called Microsoft Planner in 2020 during the COVID times. So there I put out the task in the MS Planner and assign those tasks to different people. And some of the keywords which I noted down in the meeting or in my Excel sheet were those jargons we used in the industry. And those jargons are very hard to understand on the first instance when you hear that. So everyone told me, okay, you have not written this right, this is wrong, this keyword is wrong. But my chief technology officer came into the place, and I would like to thank him today as well. That yes, he has written some keywords differently, but the sole objective of putting him on that place was achieved, and that gave me a kind of happiness inside that. So, yes, that was a kind of sharing one of the experiences where you do not know what a business analyst is, but you already did for what you were brought on that stage. So, so yeah, thank you like for your time and your attention, guys. And I would love to hear your questions or experiences, anything. And yeah, I have three questions for everyone. If someone would like to answer, it's on the screen. Yes, James.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. That was brilliant. That was really insightful. I'm very interested to hear about your journey and what you exactly do within real estate. The more I thought about it, I was like, how does a BA actually fit into real estate? But it's actually when you break it down and you're talking about like that strategic ERP and the different phases and kind of what you do, it's core BA skills, right? At the end of the day, we're using our communication, our collaboration, problem solving, analytical thinking, critical thinking, and like these skills can be applied to any industry, right? Um, I guess though, when I've heard you speak, I've been thinking about what would be, from your opinion, like if someone was trying to get into this particular industry, what would be some advice or skills for them to get into the industry?
Yeah. So in this industry, there requires a knowledge of the civil engineering background basically, where you need to understand how what are the terms, what are the jargons used in infrastructure industry. So for suppose I would say you what's an EPC, you do not know what is an EPC, and then there are 30-40 terms coming on onto your plate about what is an EPC, what's a PP, FIFO, LIFO, and different kinds of concepts you're not aware of. So I would suggest that people should actually understand the domain, have some Udemy courses or any platform they can go to and have some courses based on getting the domain knowledge of how the real estate jargons are. Obviously, you would be having the BA skills, but yes, the domain knowledge and also the financial exposure is also important. So so it would be a mixture of, I would say, 30 to 40% of the financial knowledge and rest of the real estate knowledge would be really appreciated by the people of this industry. Yeah.
And would you, like from your BA experience, is there any techniques that you think people can use to learn a domain like quickly?
Yeah. So those techniques are basically whenever we hear a word, whenever we hear any conversation, we should always, after that meeting, you are in a meeting, you hear different people talking about different assets and liabilities struggling around, and there are reports which are not getting. There are an FTR report or many financial reports. So you try to at that same day you try to search that, you try to learn that, and you try to find a mentor in your organization that is from that industry, that is from like for example 10-20 years he has been working and he has a hell lot of knowledge of that particular domain, and you try to wrap it with him, and slowly gradually you become the master of that.
I agree, and I think it as well. I find a glossary really helpful because you can write down the terms or the acronyms. Because I think in any industry that I've been in, there's like so many acronyms, so many different terms and concepts, and as well as I think when you're working as BA, you can relate to this as well. But when you're working with different people, and if you say that term, it can have different definitions depending on the context, right? So you need to make sure, based off the context that you're working within, what does that term or concept mean? And then how does it apply to like my scope or the BA work that I'm going to be doing? But yeah, I think that's a great tip and advice for learning the domain. In terms of how you enjoy your, or what would be, I suppose, the best part of your job, we would say. What's the thing
Yeah.
that you enjoy the most?
Yeah, so moving to the client side, it was a remote opportunity, so I was working from my home only. But when I went to the client side, meeting new people, interacting with them, and learning about how they are having the pain, having those IT stuff talking throughout them, and they are skeptical to understand. But the best part of my job is I tell them that I have come on this place where there is a complex scenario. You are in a problem situation, and I am here to remove you out of that problem scenario.
Mm.
So and yes, definitely making some new friends out there, hanging out to places, and then during those times having those conversations on how we would be scaling up the technologies here. Those are really great times, and getting the appreciation from the client side. The director of your the CEO of your organization tells you that, okay, we have got some good news for you, you have got an appreciation, that also helps. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's all about, like you touched on it there, just getting stuck in, hands on, and saying or explaining to the client that you're not the expert, but you're there to help them. You want to help as best as possible. And when you use that kind of mindset, the client is more willing to be kind of open, even if you're new to the domain or industry, right? They're going to be more patient. They're going to be more kind of, okay, yeah, I'm going to help this guy or girl, whoever I'm working with, to help me do whatever problem I'm trying to solve. And I think that's really key as BAs, because then it allows us to, I suppose, give us a bit more kind of relax in terms of pressure. But because we know that we're not solely responsible for this one thing to be successful, but it's a team. You need to work with different people to be able to get to that success point, to deliver the best business outcome. And yeah, it's all about kind of asking the right questions. And in terms of asking the right questions, when someone's new to the domain, do you have any advice for, again, like strategies for coming up with the right kind of questions?
Yeah. So basically, this was the question asked to me when I started handling a team of business analysts. Like, there were four business analysts, which the CEO told me that, okay, you take this team and move it throughout. So in those, two of them were freshers, and they really were learning the process of how to articulate what they are thinking and what questions they would ask. So here my tip would be that in your mind it should be structured in a way that you are going on a trip. You are trying to move to the Andes mountains, or you are going to the Himalayas. How you're going to the trip. So you would start that, okay, what is my goal? What is my objective? Why I'm trying to do this? Obviously, sometimes the client would say, okay, what stupid questions are the BA is asking? Or why they're asking this? Then we navigate towards the complexities, like, okay, you're on a journey, what would you pack? What you have a backpack, you have a water bottle with you, you have your snacks, you have everything. So you delve out in the functionalities, you ask them, okay, these are the set of, you know 20 to 30 questions are there around. So each, like, five sections are there, in each section 5 to 6 questions are there around the goals and objectives, around the functional requirements, around the non-functional requirements, and around the data, and lastly around the success criteria. Like, you reached on top of the Himalayas, and then you put up a flag there and told, click the selfie. Okay, I reached there. So what would the success parameter, success criteria determine to you? So that all should be structured in a way so it will really help the BAs prompt something and get the response out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because even keeping it very generic or very kind of high level questions, like you're not talking about like complex terms, you're not talking about domain terminology. You're basically, what problem are you solving, or what are we trying to do, who's impacted, what's impacted. That starts to form your scope, and then you can see, okay, based off this, now where can I kind of dive in further. So really, really love that approach. And then in terms of complexity, we constantly get like complex requirements or complex data or visuals that we need to be able to kind of break down and be able to explain to our stakeholders or clients. Do you have any approach or strategy for best kind of, I suppose, breaking down complexity?
Yeah, so there will be and will always be complexities, as we know the word complexity is already very complex. So yeah, there have been strategies around which I used to follow, or which I used to do the trial and error kind of thing, and understand, okay, how it could help me eventually getting there. So basically, if there is a situation where we are not able to analyze the problem or analyze the data what we are handling, so and you are in the midway, you cannot go back, or you cannot jump away from the situation. You're in the midway, you have to get throughout. So basically, we use atomicity here. We break, like you understand, there are molecules, there are atoms, and then there is a nuclei. So we try to break the complex situations into minor complex particles or minor complex scenarios, where each of them can be solved individually, so that we turn up solving the entire complexity holistically. I know saying them in a manner is easier, but implementing it is much of a hectic task.
Yeah.
So I would advise the other BA professionals to just handle it as they come in their plate, and do not never ignore any complexity. That would be my advice. Never
Yeah.
ignore any, because a nail in the horseshoe will lose you a battle. That's what we also say. Yeah.
And I think as well, like I find, if you again don't take the whole responsibility that you need to explain or break down that complexity, but if you work with different people to kind of break down different levels or layers, then it makes it easier, right? Because then you basically, if you can't understand it, you can't explain it to your team, right? So you need to work with different people to get to that understanding. And that depends if it's like business domain technology or terminology, or it's like technical terms. Like maybe, let's say you're a BA and you've never worked with like APIs before, and you now need to work with the development team because they're going to be developing this API. You need to think, okay, from a BA point of view, like you don't need to know the inner workings of an API, but you need to see how does it relate back to the user or the customer, because endpoints in an API, it's to do something based off like a user action, or it's to achieve a user goal. So if you look at that kind of perspective, there we're already breaking down complexity. And then yeah, it's good to know like how APIs work, like at a minimum, just to have that kind of foundational knowledge. But you don't need to know the technical details. That's for the technical people. Unless you want to go down that route, then fair enough. But yeah.
Right.
And then I love that you touched on AI, and AI is, I suppose, a controversial topic in the BA world at the moment. I suppose a lot of people are looking at, oh, it can help me do my job better, and it's fast, it's efficient, but then there's also some challenges or risks with it in terms of like sustainability, and then you have like verification, or if it like hallucinates or gives you kind of wrong information, and you're not verifying or validating that information with your stakeholders. But have you started like using AI yourself? And if so, like how have you used it within your role as a BA?
Yeah, James. So yes, our organization currently where I am now, so they also kind of help us with different, weekly and monthly co-pilot hours, where we're trying to understand what are the different agents we can create, or how we can use the AI to automate our work or the task what we are engaged with. But definitely, as we have lot more tasks to do, and we have lot more story writing refinements going on, we do not have the time to create some agentic AI, and then one day we will think that okay, one day we will create some agents and then move out to a particular sphere. We do not have the time for that. But still, having said that, like AI has helped me greatly with the story writing, the acceptance criteria definition, either it is process mapping on a Figma, or having crafting the insights of lots of data. You went out like for 5 6 meetings in a day, and then you ended up with a lot of data information with for complex integration of systems. Then AI can help you make that understand it in a logical manner. You put in a prompt to the AI, okay, teach me as a teacher, I want to learn what are the steps to learn this particular concept. Teach me that. I will research those articles on the internet and look around, and then probably get a way out of what is needed out of me in this process. So I use AI there. And then definitely on the course of writing the stories, so you prepare a rough draft. Earlier, what in the previous years, what we used to do, we create a Microsoft Word document, and then one point bulleting, one error is missing out, the entire document we are struggling, formatting, inconsistencies, many other things, as you would know. But nowadays, that complexities are removed. The grammatical errors, or logical, sequential, or typographical errors, any type of errors, those are completely eliminated. That saves a hell lot of time. And also navigating the complexities of a user story from a positive and negative side frame. That also sometimes AI try to gives you an insight on how to proceed. So those are some of the areas where AI has really helped me. Right? Yes, James.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a great topic, and we could spend the next hour talking about AI and how BAs can leverage their skills using AI. But I think it's important that when BAs are using AI, whatever that AI tool is, to not, I suppose, completely trust the output, because AI can make mistakes. And I've loads of stories where that actually happens working with different people in a particular industry, but that's for another time to go through. But yeah, I think it's great, and I think it's I find it's good for research, and you touched on research, structuring information, categorizing, or even just helping you come up with like some questions that you might be preparing for a workshop. But I think it's important for us to give it the context, to we give it the right information so the right information comes back, because it's all, if you think of the AI, it's just a model that's trained on data. And if that data is wrong, or if it's unbiased, or it's incomplete, it's going to give you inaccurate information, right? So you want to make sure that, okay, yeah, if I'm using it to speed up my process of whatever task I'm doing as a BA, that it actually is correct what it's saying, and that you are checking that with people within your team or within your project or whoever you're working with. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that will say, yeah, no, that's right. But you don't go and say, oh, I use an AI tool and this is the output I
Mhm.
got. And is it right? You phrase it in a way that feed it into your workshop.
Yeah.
And I did that before in the energy industry. We were working on this trading process, and I hadn't heard about virtual trading before, completely new to me. And I had used, I think it was ChatGPT at the time, just to kind of brainstorm. And I gave it as much context as possible. And then I brought that as a starting point to one of my workshops, and I kind of fed in some information that had given me, but as a question. And then the traders straight away, like these are senior traders, they were like, oh no, that's not right. That doesn't happen. Or this part here in the process, that don't know where you got that. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let's change it. You tell me. You guide me to what happens in the process now, or what happens when you do this particular thing. And it was great conversation, but it was also a great way to validate what the AI had given me as an output, to then make sure that it did work in this particular virtual trading process. So yeah, I think it's all about verification and validation.
Right. Really,
Okay.
so James, I really like thank you for your this time and engagement, and really I appreciate this opportunity to share my experiences and exchange this ideas with such a wonderful audience. And thanks to IIBA and the organizing team for hosting this session. And yeah, I wished you all continued success in your BA journeys.
Yeah, no problem at all. And thanks so much for taking the time to be a speaker. I really appreciate it and really love having new people come in and speak for the first time. So if you ever want to speak for the Ireland chapter again, I'm more than willing to have you again, Rakesh. This has been very insightful. And I'm sure everyone here who has attended today or who's going to be watching the recording is going to find something valuable from the session. So a really big thank you from myself and the Ireland chapter.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All
Have a
right,
great day.
we can leave it there, but have a great day and chat soon. Thanks again.
Yeah,
All
thank
right,
you.
bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye bye.